Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rahma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you, and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. Today is our Memorial Day celebration, 221. Our calling number is 646-200-4169. We're glad to have you with us just listening, but please press 1 if you want to talk to Michael. That'll put you in queue. We do have a caller already waiting. Just reminding everybody, we did send out a big mailer throughout Florida. Michael will be at the Heart Painter in Boca Raton Saturday evening at 7 o'clock, and then beginning Sunday, we'll go 7 days straight in Fort Lauderdale at the Center for Spiritual Living. Keep an eye on their website. We're looking at doing a Florida 9-day intensive the first week of April, starting on Good Friday. So keep an eye on that to see if that's going to happen, and let us know if you're interested in it. David and Tim are both with us this morning, and like I said, we do have a caller, but welcome, Michael.
Thank you, sweetie. And I think it's going to be an awesome time for that intensive, the whole idea of resurrection. You know, you look at the average person in our culture, and the actual human life isn't present, and so resurrection, in terms of the relevant resurrection, is: are we ready to do it now? Are we ready to awaken from the sleep of the hostility and fear that we've been brainwashed into the decisions we make out of that mind of hostility and fear? That, of course, is always somebody else's fault that we're experiencing it. And our invitation to you is to make a shift, to do something different than what's been happening on planet Earth, and that is that you actually, when you're thinking in terms of making a decision out of some form of hostility or fear, because of course they deserve it, it's all somebody else's fault, we're going to invite you to make a change, and that is to actually engage in the process of forgiveness, to move inside of yourself and look at why your vision would be so clouded that you would dare to make a decision out of some form of hostility or fear. Because what you'll notice, and we've asked the question, you know, when Jeanie opens the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, she starts with 2 questions. And the first one is, how many have ever held a newborn child? And 100% of the time, 100% of the places on the planet, the answer to that question is always, when she asks them to describe the essence of the newborn, the answer is always some variation on the theme of love. Why? Well, my offering is that it's because that's human life and everybody knows what it is. Why would we be so bizarre as to make a decision based in hostility or fear without the presence of our human lives and blame somebody else for it? The second question that's always asked at the opening of the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop is, how many have ever done something you regret? And then guess what? And I don't care where we've asked this question, Europe, you know, anywhere on the planet that we've asked this question, everybody's answer is always some variation on the theme of hostility or fear. And yet, people still trust the mind of hostility and fear. They still believe what it tells them. They know that it always leads to doing something that's regretted, but this time my mind in hostility fear is really telling me the truth, and of course it's the truth about them. It's all their fault. We're going to invite you, and the reason why Jeanie brings up and why we bring up Memorial Day and Veterans Day is to honor those people who've been through the insanity of war. And our offering is, the reason there is the insanity of war on planet Earth is that people function without a human life. and there's always somebody to blame. And though people look, it's amazing to watch how often people will go, yeah, gee, boy, I heard that group talk about when they did something they regretted. It was rage, it was grief, it was pain, it was sadness, it was fear, it was hatred, it was vengeance. And I heard that group talk about it, and I heard these people, and boy, that's always what's going on when they regret. And yet, in a current moment, the mind of hostility or fear is still believed, and people actually open their mouths and speak from that mind of hostility and fear. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And actually believe what their mind is telling them, and think that what their mind is telling them is true about someone other than themselves. Think that it's true about the outside world. What we're looking to do is to reverse that. I'd offer that is the single cause of war on planet Earth. How are we going to reverse it? Well, we're inviting everyone to take responsibility and to own, when you're in hostility or fear, that your hostility and fear is yours, number one. Number two, it clouds your perception and makes you crazy. That's why 100% of the time when we ask, have you done something you regret? The answer is always some form of hostility or fear, because what happens is the mind in hostility or fear is lying to us. So what we're looking to do is to open the space to forgive. That is, to remove the hostility and fear and get back to making choices, not decisions, but choices out of a true human mind. You remember that Paul spoke about the goal of the work was to be of like mind with Christ. What mind was it? Was that a religious idea? No. If you look at that man, what he did was he made his choices out of love. He didn't buy the hostility and fear game. In fact, he said the way to claim a human life is to have the condition of love in your mind, no matter who you look at, no matter what you do. And yet people give that up for the hostility and fear-based mind. If you're not familiar with how to forgive, and of course the culture has taught us a red herring. The culture has taught us something that isn't true. The Greeks sent us a Trojan horse. And the Trojan horse is, you did something really terrible that caused all this pain inside of me, but it's okay, I'll forgive you. I'll let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me. Well, yes, it's my mind that's fearful, but it's your fault. Well, okay, it's my mind that's hostile, but my mind's telling me the truth this time, and it's really true about you. Well, a mind in hostility or fear is always telling the owner of that mind about its own content. It's not telling the owner of that mind anything about the external world whatsoever, though its hallucinations can be awesomely powerful. So our invitation is to enter into forgiveness. And if you go to our website, whyagain.com, on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. The first 4 links in that section will tell you the whole forgiveness story and show you exactly how to start cracking the multi-generational insanity of hostility or fear and put an end to it, the power person dynamic of hostility or fear. And watch how often you find yourself in the position of making a decision out of hostility or fear, and then just take a breath, think back, and remember when your power person did that to you, and how much you disliked it. And as you begin to forgive, you start to crack that dynamic in your family system and change it for the whole bloodline. That's what we're working to do. So we invite you to the team that changed the world by engaging in the process of forgiveness. And Jeanie, you want to bring our caller in?
Sure. It is area code 941. You are on the air. Who do we have?
Yes, hi, this is Marie in Florida. Hi, Michael. Hi, Jeanie.
Welcome there,
hi,
young lady. How are you?
David.
Awesome. Welcome. I got your email about the support group starting in St. Petersburg at Unity. That's awesome.
Yes, it's
Congratulations.
awesome.
It is. It's fabulous.
14 people that signed up so far, so I'm really happy.
Yes.
It's going to be a nice healing process. Well, I wanted to be the first caller today. I missed
Awesome.
the call yesterday and David's invitation to speak about the 40-day, 5 worksheets a day project. And because of previous obligations. But I'd like to take him on this. I said I would speak today. And before you tackle another subject, may I just share with you what was my process, what was going on for me, or is it too late?
Please. Oh, absolutely. Please do. Yes.
Okay. Well, I sent a little summary to David, and as I was rereading it, I think I'd like to read it to you too, for the benefit of other people and to myself also, always.
Please.
Because it's probably more articulated as what I can memorize. So here it is, if you may allow me to do so. Well, here's a summary, and I'm writing to David. Here's a summary of what I've learned through my 5 worksheets a day for 40 days project, and I'm willing and ready to start a new year with a clean slate. Experientially, it was filled with the removal of massive corrupt data running as old programs in my system. I mean energetic system. Right. There is still a large amount of carbon-based memory hanging in there, but now it's become clear to me with the wonderful daily support of all of you energetically, although I didn't know who was really participating, but I could feel it. So I was energetically connected, and more particularly David, who has been my spontaneous volunteer mentor for that period of time, to let go of the need to figure out the why this is happening to me and what I did wrong. There was a culminating point for me. This is like an attempt to clean my clothes with dirty water. Both the data and the figuring out of the data are run by the same infected generational programs that we call memory or programs. And for me, that was a huge awakening, and I just make a parenthesis here. I was asking David at one point, like towards the end, how long do you spend doing your 5 worksheets a day? And he says, well, between 20 minutes and 30 minutes. I say, well, okay, I'll be like generous here, but I spend at least an hour and a half every day. I actually agonize over the process. And he says, well, it's because you're trying to figure out the problem.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, that's what I'm doing. And as long as I'm trying to figure out the problem, then it leads me to another one and another one and another one, and it just never ends. And I came to a point where I was kind of resenting the process.
Right.
That put me back in check. So I'll continue my little summary.
Well, can you hold your summary for a minute? I have a question or two for you that might help in clarifying the summary. First one is, and in the intensives when you're at Heartland this summer, you heard me ask this question several times. How does it look like your life? So how does it look like your life to be in that state, that emotional state of resentment towards something? And then how does it look like your life to, let's see, what was the other word that she used?
Figure out.
No, there was what it led to, that you were in a state of, I lost the word, what was it? Well, I know I do. I can answer your question right away.
Okay.
I do try to figure out, and I beat myself on it.
Okay. So have you done some worksheets on beating on yourself?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. And how about on
absolutely.
resentment towards something or someone?
What came out of this is my new behavior is to free myself from the past and infuse myself with the divine intelligence, which is pure love. And this condensed worksheet session brought me to understand what pure love is, and remove this old program where it is strictly based on approval, or for the major part based on approval. Pure love actually is simply for me now the light, the ultimate intelligence, and what is actually creating inspiration and guides me and guidance through intuition, as you call it, the inner tutor.
Right.
So there was a big awakening period. And then for this to be accomplished, it is a behavior that I gladly will maintain beyond the 40-day project that was graciously put in place. And I have kept doing my 5 worksheets a day since the project is finished, except that now it's a process that's much quicker and more pleasant. And actually I enjoy it as opposed to resent it or try to figure it out.
Cool. So you're forgiving that reality of resentment in your life. That's going to change everything. That's powerful to do.
Yes, it is very powerful. Actually, what it has brought, if I'm jumping to the end right now, but has brought, like in concrete terms that I can actually palpate, is there are people that I had an estranged relationship with for quite a while that came back into my life nicely. That has been one. Well, actually, two people. Also, several like blockages that I had in business that really I was not finding an answer or solution. Came to a resolve. And I know it's all part of the fact that I'm healing myself, and when I heal myself, automatically I heal that part of me that creates others or something in other people around me. And it's a beautiful process. It's, how can I say, I was not welcoming it at first because it's my work, and it took me a long time to understand that it was my work, because the brain wants to tell me, my brain wants to tell me, oh, it's their fault. Well, they didn't do this, and I did that right, and they didn't do it right. And it goes into like a vicious circle. So
it's the most vicious circle there is, for sure.
Yes, and unless I collapse it with my work, it's going to go in inertia, do the same thing forever and ever and ever.
You got it.
The only thing that's going to change is probably the people, but the situation remains the same.
Exactly.
So more so, every time something comes up that is less than love, I now embrace it, and I understand my work is to cancel it and release it and return it into its original state, which is a wave. As you explain, it's either a wave or a particle. And when it's a particle, it's crystallized, it's solid. And when it's a wave, then it's just potential. So if I don't grab it, it just stays there. If I grab it, it becomes my reality. It is also very clear to me now that all along I am run by old generational programs. That's another thing that I was trying to figure out. But I'm glad I have some sort of resolve in that I was contributing to that, but also there's some generational programs that are still running that I inherited at birth. And I only see if I only see with my old data running in me, then in return it becomes my own experience. So the only questions that I ask now, that I retrain my brain to ask, is what's going on in me that I am creating this experience or person. I'm at that stage right now. And because, yes, I'm creating all my experiences, and the people who show up in my life, basically they provide me the gift to realize that I have more healing and more cleaning to do. So when I don't clean my old data bank, more people keep showing up until I learn. And now, in result of this massive work that I did, I'm blessed to know that I have an arsenal of tools. And I also understand that it's simple, but it's simple and complex, but it's not complicated. My old data it's complicated. Now I know it's complex, but it's simple. It makes sense. It does.
You got it. Yeah, I'm in full agreement. That's awesome. Nice piece of work. And you did that in 40 days?
Go ahead.
I say you did that in 40 days? That's awesome.
Oh, well, it's five worksheets a day. It moves a lot of corruption around. Well,
yes.
It was my experience.
Cool.
So, of course, the way I erase this corrupt data is through forgiveness and love. And love now, as I understand it, grabs the data, dismantles it, and erases it, and returns it into its original form, which is fluid waves as opposed to solid particles, as I said before. This is the part that was most enlightening for me. There's no effort or comprehension involved. I just press my delete button. Figuring out the why will never happen because there are millions and trillions of connections that are simultaneously fired in my brain when I can only see 9 bits of information at any given time.
Right.
Not only is it foolish and a daunting task to attempt to analyze and make sense of it, but if I adapt the Greek culture where they were trying to calculate everything, for me it's like calculating infinite. It's infinite. It has no end, period. So it also prevents or delays the ultimate purpose of clearing out my carbon-based memory. That is the most precious lesson that I learned is when I try to figure out from a base of fear or hostility, I just delay and prevent the clearing of this old database.
Right.
So we're all perfect, and we're made in the image and the likeness of God, which is our source. And our only enemy is basically the one we look at every morning in the mirror, is the data that we replay in our mind. So for this, I understood that I am a co-creator. So if I don't like what I create, the gift is that I'm always given the chance to free myself from this data bank through forgiveness every time, all the time. And I get enlightened from the source. And enlightenment is basically the language of love. I don't have free will, but I have choice. By healing me first, then others around me heal too. Peace commences with me. My only job is to do my own cleaning, make amends, and be 100% responsible for what's coming up in my system. And I was asking David to have more and more people in the world willing to do this work and stop looking outside of them for a reason for their demise. Because when a person shows up in my life, it's because we have shared data. So my job is to heal the part of me that created them. And I thank you all for this absolutely wonderful opportunity to create this huge awareness in me. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, we're delighted to be on the team, and delighted to have you on the team. For anybody who's interested in the support group, when's your first support group starting?
Well, I have a support group every Monday at Unity of Sarasota from 7 to 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
And my second group will start February 7 on Tuesday from 7 to 9 at night.
Cool.
At Unity of St. Petersburg.
So once a week in Sarasota, then once a week in St. Petersburg.
Correct.
Fabulous. Awesome. Well, that information will be on the website for anybody who's in St. Petersburg, Florida, or in Sarasota. You know, one of the things that you stimulate as you were reading your synopsis to David of what your experience was is I worked several years ago. This goes back about 20 years ago with a man who was an ophthalmologist, and he was working with brain stimulation. And, you know, sometimes people say, well, why does it take so long to get through all this? And he was working with using the eyes as an ophthalmologist to reach into different parts of the brain with different light energies and stimulate and create healing in the brain. And one of the pieces of information that he would share was that the number of possible connections in a single human brain, actually probably a married human brain too, but in a human brain, the number of connections possible is approximately 800 times the number of molecules in the known universe. That's how many connections are in a human brain. 800 times the number of molecules in the known universe. That means the Milky Way. That means all of the known universe. That's what happens. That's how complex this, multi-generational database is that we have, and that's why it's a challenge after 1,000 generations of rage and fear and guilt and grief and pain and a lack of the experience of the presence of love. Oh, nice words about love, but we're designed to physically experience the presence of love. What prevents it? The only thing that prevents it are all these connections we've made to hostility and fear. And so the work is, it's a monumental piece of work to take it on and say, okay, I'm ready to change this whole game. And so we're delighted that you're changing it in your life and that you're supporting other people with 2 different support groups and doing it in theirs. That's just fabulous.
Thank you for introducing me to this work. I really appreciate it. May I ask one last piece of information that came to me?
Yes.
Okay, because I do not carry my worksheets with me all the time, and because of work and all this thing, I'm training my brain also to do this process mentally as well.
Yes.
Into very simple steps, because I know the steps, and it works really well. Because before I take say for instance a phone call that I dread because I know it's going to be challenging, I just say that in my mind very quickly, and same thing when I meet somebody that I can tell is going to be bringing some stuff up in me. I do the same thing. It's beautiful, and I combine the two. Like the forgiveness sheet, my preference is in the morning because I'm fresh in the morning and it comes up easily. But during the day, I do it mentally as well. I don't say, "Oh, well, hold on, I'll do that tomorrow or tonight." Or excuse me, sir, I have a piece of paper to finish, and it's beautiful if I can have both tools at my disposal, and it clears like a lot of the clutter as it comes, as opposed to storing it and waiting the next day to go through that.
Right. Yeah, the idea is to train your mind to, what the culture calls your mind, to support you in the process of healing. There is actually an additional worksheet on the website where I think there are 6 issues where you can, just do a short form of it real quick, and then what I suggest is that if you're coming across something that's kind of heavy duty, that aside from doing the mental process, quick fix kind of thing during the day, that you go ahead and you really do the full written process, because by writing you access different parts of the brain, and it shifts and changes in a different way than just doing it mentally.
Correct.
Yep. Awesome.
Thank you very much. Cool. You have a blessed day. Talk to you later. I'll see you soon.
Blessings. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, we have
Fabulous.
Julie Haverstick on the phone.
Oh, well,
Hi,
hey there,
Julie.
young lady. How are you? Are you getting through your cleanse, Julie?
Did I actually push 1?
You did.
I guess you did. You must have. You're with us.
Well, I actually don't remember pushing 1, but
what can I say?
I am finishing up my cleanse. I still have a little cough and a little mucus, but nothing like it was in the beginning.
Cool. Another layer. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah, and feels better. And I had a very interesting reality or experience with the 40 days, and that was I always felt, even though I was really quite under the weather, I always felt the support of the group to actually sit down and, go ahead and do those 5 worksheets. I always felt that every day, that support, that we were working together, and that somebody was going to call me, and that I was going to call them, and we were going to make that connection. And I felt that support that, you don't normally feel when you're just doing it by yourself. And I have done many of them by myself. So that was a nice experience to have, where you had total awareness. Wait a minute, I need to take a drink of water. But the other thing that I think has been very, very powerful, which I am starting to write about, is I awakened one morning with a thought, and the thought was, what is your intention? And I thought, wow, what is my intention? And then there was such sweet energy around that whole, just that little phrase, that I thought, wow, that's interesting. And so then I went to start doing my day, and as I went to do something, I heard those words again, like, what is your intention? But when that happened, I also got an answer. It was like my mind was working differently. And then what happened, the answer wasn't necessarily something that I wanted to hear, but it was an answer to it. And then I noticed my interaction with Michael, you, and my interaction with David, and some thought process I had, and my interaction with Patrick. And again, it would go, well, what is your intention? And then I would get a response. And when I got the response, it was, well, I think that's your need to be right. Okay?
Ouch.
So I thought, wow, that's telling me something about the way my mind's working. So then I asked Ruka Dakucha to support me in healing this need to be right. So what it seems to be happening is that as I am dealing with someone, my mind serves up the question, well, what is your intention here? And then when I get the response, if it's a loving response, that's fine. If it's a response that isn't something that I would like to have, then it's my opportunity to either do some worksheets around, or my opportunity to say, okay, Holy Spirit, let's just burn this off. This isn't something that the way I want to do my life anymore. So it's like kind of a new aha awareness.
Nice.
I hope I'm explaining it appropriately, that you understand.
Got it loud and clear.
Okay, so I started to write a little bit about it, and what it seems to be is like a notification for me to take a real good look at what is my underlying intention that I never really truly looked at before. But when it says it, it resonates the truth in me, because my desire to know the truth is there. And it seems to be resonating that truth so that I can actually look at that truth and either dismantle it and say, okay, this is okay.
Well, it sounds, Julie, it sounds like going beyond your carbon-based memory, which has its stored intentions, its goals, its fears, its, all the stuff it carries. And it sounds like your true mind, we talked earlier in the show about Paul's statement to be of like mind with Christ, and it sounds like your true mind is coming through, breaking through that wall of the multi-generational database and giving you a new level of information to look at. And one of the things that we know about this carbon-based memory system and what we call, the body's mind, the normal mind or so-called mind that most people function out of, is that of all the possible connections, those 800 times the number of known molecules in the universe, the only data that it can use is that which is tied to current intention and purpose. And if the intention and purpose is to protect myself, then out of those connections, my mind will always hallucinate there's a reason to protect myself. And if it's, I have to be right, otherwise, I get punished or I get blamed or I get, whatever it is, then my mind's always going to have to show me that I'm right, which of course means somebody else is wrong. And so that's an awesome catch. That's really that's going to change your life. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's actually been awesome, and and then the honesty. What I really love is the honesty, and that I can hear it and be conscious with it, and and point it right in the right at the instant when that happened. It was happened something with Patrick, and then it was the information was you need to be in control, and as soon as I heard that, I was able to say, oh, I can release this. And it was like so, the whole energy between Patrick and I just sort of softened right then,
awesome.
Because I was aware and I could hear it, and the question was asked, and it was like, wow. So that's been really a kind of a bubbling experience.
Nice.
I did want to share that with you. I started to take some notes because, it's one of those things like you had told me before. When you get those ahas, start writing it down because, it could drift away. And I really think it's something that needs to be documented.
Yeah, to have that to go back to and remind yourself when your mind goes back to a state, if something of unconsciousness comes up, to get to that level. And that it's always true when there's any form of hostility or fear that there's something like that under the surface that's running it. And that's the thing. We talk a lot about a connection to Source. That's the thing that this non-being mind makes more important than being connected to Source. Right. And that's how we give up our relationship with God. Somebody who wants to be right, protect themselves, be in control, blah, 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 whatever those dynamics are, there are 1,000 variations on the theme, loves that purpose more than they love God, more than they're in relationship with the Creator, more than they love love. When we talk about the Creator, we're talking about this field in which we live, move, and have our being. And when we can bring everything in our multi-generational database into alignment with our primary purpose, which is to stand in relationship with love, then in every situation, instead of, I'm going to argue with you, I'm going to fight with you, I'm going to struggle with you, I'm going to be in my pain and my turmoil, I'm going to, puke on you, I'm going to throw you away, I'm going to throw you to the wolves, I'm going to get rid of you, I'm going to whatever, we're going to go, how do I bring love forward? How do I bring my human life through this part of my mind and have it show up here and bring healing for me and everybody I'm interacting with?
Yeah, it's so great, and what's really great is that I can be with the truth. It's like, I hear the truth, and then I can just say, let's let this go. And what's really true, when I've asked Rupa Dakucha to come in and support me in moving this energy out, besides doing the worksheets too, then what seems to happen is, then I say, if it's multi-generational, let's let that go too. And that awareness of being able to ask for the multi-generational is really good. It's excellent.
For sure. For sure. Well, that's fabulous, Julie. That's just an awesome new subtle piece of the puzzle in cracking down and breaking down the generational stuff. That's just very powerful.
Yeah, I feel very, very, very grateful for it. And like I said, it was a gift because I could feel the energy when it was being given to me. It was that real sweet, intuitive message, very gentle at a time when I'm just waking up, where I'm receptive to it, so it's real sweet.
Well, that's another really good point to make, is that, oftentimes people ask the question of, well, how do I know if it's from my intuition or if it's from my mind? Hey, if it's got any kind of hostility or fear attached, if it's anything other than that sweetness, it's not intuition. It's coming from that carbon-based memory system, and it it sneaks in and says, oh, here, this is what it is, and so that's a really good point to make, is that it's going to come with that energy of sweetness instead of the energy of some form of either subtle or gross hostility or fear and all the stuff that accompanies it. So, well, you've just created another wide opening on planet Earth. One of my favorite sayings, everybody's heard me say it often, is, and it really applies here, is millions yet unborn will benefit from that piece of work.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for opening the energy on the planet for a new level of that. And, for people who are listening to the show that are maybe new to it, you might say, well, what does that mean? How is that going to change anything for anybody else? And one of my favorite examples of that, you can go to the website, and Jeannie's put a link on there under videos or under We Are One. And if you look down the list, you'll see one with about a lion named Christian the Lion. And to me, Christian teaches us, interesting, his name is Christian, but he teaches us this awesome lesson. And this lion, as a cub, was purchased by two British gentlemen, who kept it in their apartment as a pet until it, lions get too big for your apartment, I guess, And so what they did is they transported this lion to a preserve in Africa and set it free. A year later, they go back and they video this thing, and they're out there calling for this lion. And this huge male lion comes bounding down the hill. I'll never forget the first time I saw that video. It's like, I hope this is the right lion. And it jumps up on these two guys and, hugs on them, licks on them, plays with them. I mean, it's just fabulous to watch, and that's really powerful. But to me, on this point that we're talking about, what's even more powerful is that I suspect that this lion did not talk to its mate when they were up the hill and say, by the way, these humans are my friends, don't eat them. But along with this huge male lion comes its mate, and its mate is a wild lioness, the hunter or huntress. And in the video, they show this female rubbing up against these guys, and they're petting her, a female wild lion. That's impossible. That's ridiculous. Well, when you realize the space of friendship and love that this male has for his two friends, that's automatically communicated to the female, and the female cooperates. And Julie, to me, that what you've just, the power of what you've just done in terms of breaking through on another level is that you now know from experience a truth of living at another level of being and the communication that comes from that level of being, and cracking the space of the mind that needs to be right, the mind that needs to be in control, all the defensive games that we've played to throw away our human lives. And so to me, it's kind of like, in this scenario on planet Earth, you become a Christian the Lion that communicates on a subtle energetic level in a whole new way. And this is what we're looking to create with this work is critical mass, is enough people who hold that space that together we create a field. I suspect that, if these two guys had met this female lioness 10 miles away and, Christian weren't in sight, they'd have probably been in big trouble. But in this local space of this male, the female is gentle and caring as this male is with his human friends. And, when Yeshua speaks about, to me this is one of the things that inspires me in this work, when Yeshua speaks about a little leavening leavens the whole loaf, when we can get enough people who will actually go into that relationship that he said was the key. When they asked him, what's most important in the law? It was, have this space of love. And when we hit critical mass, he said, a little leavening leavens the whole loaf. If we're not in that space of love, we don't have a human life. We're living a non-human life. And so thank you for opening that on another level, and that's a huge contribution to the work.
No, you're welcome. It's been my pleasure. I mean, like I said, it's great for me. I'm very excited about the whole thing. I have another question. Do we have time?
Yes. And
okay.
and I'm just to share with you that as we're talking and I'm tapping into that, I mean, I can feel what you're talking about in my own physiology, and it's awesome. Thank you.
Oh, good. Yay. The question I have is, I've been in the healing crisis for ever since Christmas Eve, and I every day I was feeling better, but it did take its time, and allowing my body, to naturally just cleanse. Somebody else offered me some sort of natural herbs to sort of stop the process, and I kind of felt like I wanted to ask you this question. I would have called you on your phone, but I thought it'd be good to share on the radio show. Once the body is wanting to cleanse, shouldn't we allow it to cleanse rather than stop the process, even if it's using something natural?
Absolutely. People can use certain herbs as drugs, the same thing. When the system is vital enough to throw off what doesn't belong, what you want to do is everything you can do to cooperate with and support that process. Allow it to occur. It's not Dr. Feelgood. It's not pleasant, but if you're going to unload the load, it's kind of like doing spring cleaning. What if somebody said, when you're going to do spring cleaning, well, gee, the house is going to get dusty and messy and the furniture's all going to be mixed up and everything. How about if I just come and I have this super broom and I can sweep all the dirt farther under the carpet? Then you won't have to deal with it. Well, that's what using an herb or a drug is like. It's like, well, we can sweep it under the carpet so it looks like it's not there, and I feel better, but everybody knows that under the carpet there's something that sooner or later is going to have to be dealt with, and that something that's under the carpet is going to decay, it's going to deteriorate, it's going to attract bugs, it's going to attract vermin, it's going to attract, bacteria, viruses, and there's going to be something not so nice happen in the house. That's what they call a filthy house. A dirty house has vermin and garbage going on in it. Well, it's no different in a physical building than it is in a physical body. If we keep sweeping it under the rug, if we, people, gee, Doc, can you help me suppress the symptoms of my cold? I'm never going to help anybody do that. That's crazy to do. I'll show you how to open your eliminative channels and accelerate the cleansing process, but you want to go through that. You don't want to inhibit it because it's just locking it back in tissue, and that means the tissue is going to deteriorate. So, yeah, I think you're very wise to say, thanks, I'll pass on that. One of the best accelerators and openers of the eliminative channels when you go into that kind of a cleanse, of course, is, as we've talked about before, is good pure water in abundance, fresh lemon, organic preferably if you can get it, as much cayenne pepper as you can take, and one of the best cayenne peppers on the planet, has the highest levels of vitamin A, is Nigerian cayenne. There are some lower grades and garbage-type cayennes, and you make that drink as hot as you can take it, in terms of the cayenne and taking it in taste. And then a little bit of maple syrup just to balance it. The maple syrup is high in minerals, and/or you can use what's the word I'm looking for? My brain's in another place. Anyway, a natural sweetener. Molasses is real high in minerals, very alkalizing. And that alkalizing, mineralizing effect, along with the alkalizing of the lemon, will help the body to cleanse.
Were you thinking of stevia?
Well, stevia can be good too, but it's not that strong a nutrient base, so I would more recommend the maple syrup.
Manuka honey?
Manuka honey, awesome. That's an awesome sweetener, yes. And you get a high-grade, high UMF Manuka honey. It's pretty expensive, but the enzymes in that honey can help to do the breakdown process and the cleansing, for sure.
Okay, well, I really wanted to check on that because somebody was talking me into doing some Chinese herbs, which would, sort of stop the process. And I thought, I think I'd just like to let this happen because every day I'm feeling more and more supported with it cleansing and completing itself.
Yeah, they're never going to find a cure for the common cold because the common cold's not a disease. The common cold is a structure saying, all right, I'm vital enough, now I'm going to do some house cleansing. Yes, it's going to be messy. But do you want to suppress the symptoms of your cold? Never. Because suppressing them, it's not about the symptoms. It's about why are the symptoms there. And suppressing the symptoms is kind of like, I've used the example of we're doing a workshop on the 10th story of an old wooden hotel, and all of a sudden the fire alarm goes off, and Julie says, gee, Michael, don't worry about that fire alarm. I've got a pair of wire cutters. I'll cut the wires to the bell. Who wants to stay on the 10th floor of an old wooden hotel when the wires to the bell are cut? There's no warning left. There's no notice that anything's going on. But everybody knows it's somewhere in the building. The fire's still raging. When you shut down the symptoms, the fire inside still rages. The problem still goes on. It's cutting the wires to the bell doesn't support the healing process in any way, shape, or form, although things look better. And in our culture, people call that healing. That's why there's such an expansion of degenerative disease. That's why every time they come out with a new antibiotic, antibio means anti-life, there's going to be a new level of superbug developed. Because the bugs are feeding on the garbage. If you don't clean the garbage out, if you feed them, they will come. If you maintain the garbage and you poison the bugs, there are going to be a certain number of those bugs that will adapt to the poison, use it as food, and carry on. And that's where the superbugs come to that no antibiotics will touch now. So it's totally counterproductive to use something to suppress what the body wants to do, and that is to cleanse itself and rid itself of the garbage. So thank you for that question. It's a good one. Good point to make.
All right. Well, you're welcome, and I did want to know the answer, too.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, good talking to you, and Happy New Year to both of you.
Best year yet of your eternal life, Julie. Thank you. Thanks for the work you're doing. Okay. Blessings.
Blessings. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Jeanie, any other callers? Anything happening in the chat room? That sounded like Tim.
Oh, are we here?
We're here. Hey, Dr. Tim.
Oh, I didn't know I had my microphone on. But thank you again, Julie, for the comments. And that's a huge, wonderful piece of work.
It is, isn't it?
I was feeling, as you were, the usual excitement physically, the tingling. She's clearly onto something big there.
Yeah. Yeah, when we can, one of the really powerful things to recognize, and the folks that I'm staying with here in St. Louis, the woman that I'm staying with and her husband, we were talking this morning, and she's been doing the work for several years, and she talked about how her remembrance that we talked about, the non-being mind has a cheap copy of everything real in the spiritual dimension. And it's in many cultures, or almost all the indigenous cultures, there's a trickster. The fox is a symbol of the trickster. The joker is a symbol of the trickster. And the trickster, which is just the non-being mind, has a cheap copy of everything that's real in the spiritual dimension. And it's so subtle in its difference that you really have to do the work in order to develop the discernment to know the difference. And, Julie's been doing her work for a quarter of a century now. And, people say, well, it's taken 25 years. Gee, Oh, man, when you stop and think that we're all living on top of 1,000 generations of craziness, and then add to that the understanding. And Tim, this answers a question that a friend of ours was asking before about, well, gee, if you're not finished in a year, what's the sense? That the number of connections in a human brain is 800 times the number of known molecules, the number of molecules in the known universe. And the complexity and the subtlety of it. And you just have to come to the point where you hold yourself to a standard. And the standard is, do I have the active presence of love? If not, then I'm going to go back and do my work. Because your mind can trick you so fast. Your mind can turn it around inside out, upside down, and make it, oh, yeah, well, I'm feeling this because of them. And if I just get away from them, then I won't have to feel this again. If I can just avoid them, it's this that's the cause of me feeling this way. No. It's the energetics that's held in your system. And so thank you for that refinement, Julie. That's an awesome piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and the energetics, as you were talking about, we were talking about Christian the Lion on Tuesday night at the group, because there was a ripple effect going through the group when one person decided to get brave and talk about a really important issue to her. And did some processing and had some tears. And then not the person sitting right next to her, but the next person over erupted in emotion and strong emotion and said, well, I got pretty triggered and I was pretty irritated when I heard her start talking about this, so I realized that means there's something I need to look at here. So we worked out with that person a bit, and some emotions came out, in the process of which the person to his right began to cry. And we warned the people to his right, it's coming. Just
coming around the circle.
That train, it's coming around the corner. But
gives a whole new meaning to laying them in the aisles, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But the energetic support you get when two or more people are going to go address this. It's like our friend was talking from Florida about doing the 5-a-day for 40 days and knowing there are people there to support her. It's a whole different experience. Julie was saying the same thing, that she's done worksheets and lots of worksheets before, but when she decided to get an accountability partner, it had a whole different energy for her, and she could feel there were other people doing the same thing, and it does stuff we don't really have words for.
Yeah.
And that was happening on Tuesday night, and it's just a magnificent thing. I mean, I still have people that ask me, why are you donating one night a week for the past 6 years? When are you going to start getting paid for that? And I just have to chuckle, because I get paid every week.
in something far more important than the coin to the realm of the culture, right?
Yeah, and something that lasts a lot longer than our American dollars.
Well, that's definitely a whole issue in its own.
Well, I'm not talking about the currency. I'm talking about it lasts longer than my car and my house. It lasts longer than the food I'm eating. It's fabulous stuff. There's more of the energy that we're created of available for our conscious minds to pay attention to in those groups than in most other settings I run into throughout the week. That's why I keep going back there.
Yeah.
It's right out there on the table. These people who are agreeing to come to that meeting rather than sit in front of a television set or go to another movie or gossip about somebody else on the phone or sit on Facebook, and it's just magnificent what happens.
Yeah, and the culture can give us 1,000 distractions to keep us from from doing our work. 1,000, oh, I have to go take care of this, I have to do that, I have to do. And, it's just more of the game. And again, the measure of what's our love for the Creator. Do we honor having the condition of love in our minds above all else? If not, then we're playing with false gods. And, that's okay. People do that. But to kid yourself and trick yourself into thinking that you can make a decision out of that violates the first law and then kid yourself that you have relationship with the Creator, it's like, forget it. You're frauding yourself. You're defrauding yourself. There's an awesome statement that Yeshua makes in the Aramaic, and he speaks about, there are going to be many who will come to me chattering my name. Oh, they'll say my name, and they'll say it, and they'll say it, and they'll say it. But what he says is, their hearts are far from me. If your heart is still capable of rejecting another, of moving out of a space of love, of some form of hostility or fear, don't kid yourself anymore. Just be honest with yourself. You love your false gods above all else, and okay, cool. Then, if you decide you want to change that, there's the next level of your work. There's the next piece of work until you actually come to the point, and to me this is the practical application of the teachings of this man, Yeshua, is you actually love more than you do all those purposes like what Julie was talking about. Oh, I want to be in control. I want to be right. That you love more than that. And you're not willing to give it up for anything. That's the measure of one's work. David, do you have any thoughts for us? We haven't heard your sweet voice yet.
Just listening and good stuff.
It is good stuff. Dr. Tim, did you have anything else to add?
Well, I was just going to say you have to love more than anything or anyone.
Exactly.
And that is really, that's a big challenge for a lot of people, especially in this culture. But the minute I make anyone or anything more important than my connection to my source, I'm like the rose that uproots itself to give chase to a butterfly or any other object.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
And Anthony DeMello talks about it beautifully. He says, so there are these people, and they think it's more important to make other people happy, and that I should give up my happiness in order to make you happy. And so that making you happy should be more important than my happiness. And they say, yes, absolutely. That's the nature of relationship. And he says, okay, great. So then I'm miserable because I need to be making you happy, and then you give up your happiness to try and stay in love and be connected to me, so you're miserable, so we're both miserable together. And the other person says, yes, that's right. Then we're truly with God.
That's the non-being mind's explanation of relationship with love. Yes.
Yeah.
That's why we have a theological monstrosity that's willing to kill people. Yeah. That's all a fabrication of this non-being mind, and that's what it creates. And and it's got lots of earmarks, and you just went through several of them. That's for sure. And on a practical level, so where we live, we want to own the space that's in us of any form of hostility or fear. If you're not familiar with the forgiveness process, please go to whyagain.com, whyagain.com. On the right-hand side, there's a link that says download worksheets. And on that, the first 4 items under that link will give you the whole forgiveness process. We invite you to tap into it, open the space in yourself to really, truly be able to embrace everything in you that's less than love, and to be able to forgive it. And we're at the completion point of our show today. The time flies. Please join us in Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, starting Saturday. Boca Raton Saturday night, Fort Lauderdale Sunday through the following Saturday. And check out the website. Bring a stranger with you tomorrow's show. Blessings and thanks for being with us. Have the best year yet of your eternal life.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.